his calculating machine. 1685. 30. The principle of the clock, input wheels and display wheels added to a clock-like mechanism. For a direct entry calculating machine couldn't be implemented to create a fully effective calculating machine without additional innovation with the technological capabilities of the 17th century. 31. Because their gears were jammed when a carry had to be moved several places along the accumulator. The only 17th century calculating clocks that have survived to this day do not have a machine-wide carry mechanism and therefore cannot be called fully effective mechanical calculators. A much more successful calculating clock was built by the Italian Giovanni Pellini in the 18th century and was a two-motion calculating clock. The numbers are inscribed first and then they are processed. In 1623, Wilhelm Schickard, a German professor of Hebrew and astronomy, designed a calculating clock which he drew on two letters that wrote to Johannes Kepler. The first machine to be built by a professional was destroyed during its construction and Schickard abandoned his project in 1624. These drawings had appeared in various publications over the centuries, starting in 1718 with a book of Kepler's letters by Michael Hanske, 32, but in 1957 it was presented for the first time as a long-lost mechanical calculator by Dr. Franz Hammer. The building of the first replica in the 1960s showed that Schickard's machine had an unfinished design and therefore wheels and springs were added to make it work. 33. The use of these replicas showed that the single-tooth wheel, when used within a calculating clock, was an inadequate carry mechanism. 34. See Pascal versus Schickard. This did not mean that such a machine could not be used in practice, but the operator, when faced with the mechanism resisting rotation, in the unusual circumstances of a carry being required beyond, say, 3 dials, would need to help the subsequent carry to propagate. Around 1643, a French clockmaker from Rouen, after hearing of Pascal's work, built what he claimed to be a calculating clock of his own design. Pascal fired all his employees and stopped developing his calculator as soon as he heard of the news. 35. It is only after being assured that his invention would be protected by a royal privilege that he restarted his activity. 36. A careful examination of this calculating clock showed that it didn't work properly and Pascal called it an aborted fetus. 37. 38. In 1659, the Italian Tito Livio Burattini built a machine with 9 independent wheels. Each one of these wheels was paired with a small equerry wheel. 39. At the end of an operation, the user had to either manually add each carry to the next digit or mentally add these numbers to create the final result. In 1666, Samuel Morland invented a machine designed to add sums of money, 40. But it was not a true adding machine since the carry was added to a small carry wheel situated above each digit and not directly to the next digit. It was very similar to Burattini's machine. Morland created also a multiplying machines with interchangeable discs based on Napier's bones. 41, 42. Taken together, these two machines provided a capacity similar to that of the invention of Schickard, although it is doubtful that Morland ever encountered Schickard's calculating clock. In 1673, the French clockmaker René Grillet described in Curiosités mathématiques de l'invention du système Grillet, Horloge à Paris, a calculating machine that would be more compact than Pascal's calculator and reversible for subtraction. The only 2 Grillet machines known, 43, have no carry mechanism. Displaying 3 lines of 9 independent dials, they also have 9 rotating Napier's rod for multiplication and division. Contrary to Grillet's claim, it was not a mechanical calculator after all. 44. The 18th century. Overview. Detail of a replica of an 18th century calculating machine. Designed and built in by the German Johann Helfrich Müller. The 18th century saw the first mechanical calculator that could perform a multiplication automatically. Designed and built by Giovanni Pellini in 1709 and made of wood, it was the first successful calculating clock. For all the machines built in this century, division still required the operator to decide when to stop a repeated subtraction at each index, and therefore these machines were only providing a help in dividing, like an abacus. Both pinwheel calculators and Leibniz wheel calculators were built with a few unsuccessful attempts at their commercialization. Prototypes and limited runs. In 1709, the Italian Giovanni Pellini was the first to build a calculator that could multiply automatically. Its pinwheel design was the first operational calculating clock and was made of wood. Winking sad smiley 45. He destroyed it after hearing that Antonius Braun had received 10,000 guldens for dedicating a pinwheel machine of his own design to the Emperor Charles VI of Vienna. 46. In 1725, the French Academy of Sciences certified a calculating machine derived from Pascal's calculator designed by Lepin, a French craftsman. The machine was a bridge in between Pascal's calculator and a calculating clock. The carry transmissions were performed simultaneously, like in a calculating clock, and therefore the machine must have jammed beyond a few simultaneous carry transmissions. 47. Mechanical calculator from Anton Braun, dated 1727. In 1727, a German, Antonius Braun, presented the first fully functional four-operation machine to Charles VI, Holy Roman Emperor in Vienna. It was cylindrical in shape and was made of steel, silver and brass. It was finely decorated and looked like a Renaissance table clock. His dedication to the emperor engraved on the top of the machine also reads, to make easy to ignorant people, addition, subtraction, multiplication and even division. 48. In 1730, the French Academy of Sciences certified 3 machines designed by Hilaire de Boisty Saint-Dié. The first one used a single-tooth carry mechanism which, according to Boisty Saint-Dié, wouldn't work properly if a carry had to be moved more than 2 places. The 2 other machines used springs that were gradually armed until they released their energy when a carry had to be moved forward. It was similar to Pascal's calculator, but instead of using the energy of gravity, Boisty Saint-Dié used the energy stored into the springs. 49. In 1770, Philipp Matthaus Hahn, a German pastor, built 2 circular calculating machines based on Leibniz cylinders. 50. 51. J.C. Schuster, Hahn's brother-in-law, built a few machines of Hahn's design into the early 19th century. 52. In 1775, Lord Stanhope of the United Kingdom designed a pinwheel machine. It was set in a rectangular box with a handle on the side. He also designed a machine using Leibniz wheels in 1777. 53. In 1777, Stanhope produced the logic demonstrator, a machine designed to solve problems in formal logic. This device marked the beginning of a new approach to the solution of logical problems by mechanical methods. 40. In 1784, Johann Helfrich Müller built a machine very similar to Hahn's machine. 54. The 19th century. Overview. Luigi Torchi invented the first direct multiplication machine in 1834. 55. This was also the second key-driven machine in the world, following that of James White, 1822. 56. The mechanical calculator industry started in 1851. Thomas de Colmar released his simplified arithmometra, which was the first machine that could be used daily in an office environment. For 40 years, 57, The arithmometer was the only mechanical calculator available for sale and was sold all over the world. By 1890, about 2,500 arithmometers had been sold, 58, plus a few hundreds more from two licensed arithmometer clone makers, Burckhardt, Germany, 1878 and Layton, UK, 1883. Felt and Tarrant, the only other competitor in true commercial production, had sold 100 comptometers in 3 years. 59. The 19th century also saw the designs of Charles Babbage calculating machines, first with his difference engine, started in 1822, which was the first automatic calculator since it continuously used the results of the previous operation for the next one, and second with his analytical engine, which was the first programmable calculator, using Jacquard's cards to read program and data, that he started in 1834, and which gave the blueprint of the mainframe computers built in the middle of the 20th century. 60. Desktop mechanical calculators in production during the 19th century. Desktop calculators produced. Front panel of a Thomas arithmometer with its movable result carriage extended in 1851. Thomas de Colmar simplified his arithmometer by removing the one-digit multiplier / divider. This made it a simple adding machine, but thanks to its moving carriage used as an indexed accumulator, it still allowed for easy multiplication and division under operator control. The arithmometer was now adapted to the manufacturing capabilities of the time. Thomas could therefore manufacture consistently a sturdy and reliable machine. 61. Manuals were reprinted and each machine was given a serial number. Its commercialization launched the mechanical calculator industry. 62. Banks, insurance companies, government offices started to use the arithmometer in their day-to-day operations, slowly bringing mechanical desktop calculators into the office. In 1878, Burckhardt, of Germany, was the first to manufacture a clone of Thomas' arithmometer. Until then, Thomas de Colmar had been the only manufacturer of desktop mechanical calculators in the world, and he had manufactured about 1,500 machines. 63. Eventually 20 European companies will manufacture clones of Thomas' arithmometer until World War II. Doré Felt, in the US, patented the comptometer in 1886. It was the first successful key-driven adding and calculating machine. Key-driven refers to the fact that just pressing the keys causes the result to be calculated, no separate lever or crank has to be operated. Other machines are sometimes called keyset. In 1887, he joined with Robert Tarrant to form the Felt and Tarrant Manufacturing Company. 64. The comptometer type calculator was the first machine to receive an all-electronic calculator engine in 1961, the Anita Mark 7 released by Sumlock Comptometer of the UK. In 1890, W.T. Ardner got the rights to manufacture his calculator back from Königsberger & C., which had held them since it was first patented in 1878, but had not really produced anything. Ardner used his St. Petersburg workshop to manufacture his calculator and he built and sold 500 machines in 1890. This manufacturing operation shut down definitively in 1918 with 23,000 machines produced. The Ardner arithmometer was a redesigned version of the arithmometer of Thomas de Colmar with a pinwheel engine, which made it cheaper to manufacture and gave it a smaller footprint while keeping the advantage of having the same user interface. 65. In 1892, Ardner sold the Berlin branch of his factory, which he had opened a year earlier, to Grimm, Natalis and Company. They moved the factory to Braunschweig and sold their machines under the brand name of Brunsviga. Brunsviga is the Latin name of the town of Braunschweig. 66. This was the first of many companies which would sell and manufacture clones of Wagner's machine all over the world. Eventually millions were sold well into the 1970s. 65. In 1892, William S. Burroughs began commercial manufacture of his printing adding calculator. 67. Burroughs Corporation became one of the adding companies in the accounting machine and computer businesses. The Millionaire calculator was introduced in 1893. It allowed direct multiplication by any digit one turn of the crank for each figure in the multiplier. It contained a mechanical product lookup table, providing units and tens digits by differing lengths of posts. 68. Another direct multiplier was part of the Moon-Hopkins billing machine. That company was acquired by Burroughs in the early 20th century. 19th century comptometer in a wooden case. 19th and early 20th century's calculating machines. Musée des Arts et Matthias Sodner's arithmometer automatic mechanical calculators. The London Science Museum's working difference engine, built a century and a half after Charles Babbage's design. In 1822, Charles Babbage presented a small cogwheel assembly that demonstrated the operation of his difference engine. 69. A mechanical calculator which would be capable of holding and manipulating 7 numbers of 31 decimal digits each. It was the first time that a calculating machine could work automatically using as input results from its previous operations. 60. It was the first calculating machine to use a printer. The development of this machine, later called difference engine number 1, stopped around 1834. 70. In 1847, Babbage began work on an improved difference engine design, his difference engine number 2. None of these designs were completely built by Babbage. In 1991, the London Science Museum followed Babbage's plans to build a working difference engine number 2 using the technology and materials available in the 19th century. In 1855, Georg Schiutz completed a working difference engine based on Babbage's design. The machine was the size of a piano, and was demonstrated at the Exposition Universelle in Paris in 1855. It was used to create tables of logarithms. In 1875, Martin Wiberg redesigned the Babbage /Schiutz difference engine and built a version that weighs size of a sewing machine. Programmable mechanical calculators. In 1834, Babbage started to design his analytical engine, which will become the undisputed ancestor of the modern mainframe computer. 71. With 2 separate input streams for data and program, a primitive Harvard architecture, printers for outputting results, 3 different kind, processing unit, mill, memory, store, and the first ever set of programming instructions. In the proposal that Howard Aiken gave IBM in 1937 while requesting funding for the Harvard Mark I, which became IBM's entry machine in the computer industry, we can read, few calculating machines have been designed strictly for application to scientific investigations, the notable exceptions being those of Charles Babbage and others who followed him. In 1812, Babbage conceived the idea of a calculating machine of a higher type than those previously. Minimal but working demonstration part of mill from the analytical engine finished by Babbage soon around 1906, constructed to be used for calculating and printing tables of mathematical functions. After abandoning the difference engine, Babbage devoted his energy to the design and construction of an analytical engine of far higher powers than the difference engine. 72. In 1843, during the translation of a French article on the analytical engine, Ada Lovelace wrote, in one of the many notes included, an algorithm to compute the Bernoulli numbers. This is considered the first computer program. From 1872 until 1910, Henry Babbage worked intermittently on creating the mill, the central processing unit of his father's machine. After a few setbacks, He gave in 1906 a successful demonstration of the mill which printed the first 44 multiples of pi with 29 places of figures. Cash registers. The cash register, invented by the American saloon keeper James Ritty in 1879, addressed the old problems of disorganization and dishonesty in business transactions. 73.